Hi, Justine Sparkgirls. This is Issa, and right now we're here with Meg Cabot, author of the renowned book series such as The Princess Diaries and Airhead. And now she has just released her most current book, Abandoned. So, Meg, can you please give us a quick synopsis about Abandoned?
Well, Abandoned is a little bit different than the books I've been writing lately. It's about actually a girl who has died, but she gets resuscitated. When she comes back, however, from the world of the dead, there's somebody there who wants her back, and she can't really adjust to normal life because something seems to be pulling her back to where she was when she died. So it's kind of a modern retelling of the myth of Persephone I've been telling people, but with a twist.
Okay, awesome. And obviously, as many mythology fanatics know, this book is loosely based off the myth of Persephone. So how were you able to, what gave you the inspiration to merge both the paranormal and Greek mythology?
Well, I always really love the myth of Persephone because it's one of the few Greek myths where the female character isn't turned into a tree or an animal. She actually really becomes empowered because she actually becomes queen of the underworld. And I'm not giving away a spoiler because I'm not saying that's what happens in this book. But she kind of feels like an outsider, I thought, Persephone, because she wasn't allowed to be in Olympus by her mom, who is Demeter. She was always forced to stay kind of on the outside of everything, and she was like a really lonely person. And I kind of felt that way when I was a teenager. I really didn't seem to fit in anywhere, which I think really contributed a lot to me being a writer. And then, you know, Persephone's out there not being in Olympus, and this guy comes along who also wasn't allowed to be in Olympus, who was Hades, the lord of the underworld. And that's a little bit what happens in this book. It's about kind of two people who don't really seem to fit in anyway, and they find a connection. So I think that that's something I think a lot of teenagers can kind of understand and sympathize with, because I felt like I was always waiting for somebody who would understand me and to help me find a place where I could fit in.
Oh, okay. So basically, just elaborating on that, do you use a lot of your own experiences when not only writing about Abandoned, but with your other teen books?
Well, I have never died and been resuscitated and then gone to the underworld. But, I really did have a lot of problems when I was a teenager, feeling like I didn't fit in and feeling a little bit like an outsider. I certainly, unfortunately, have never turned out to be a princess, which enjoyed immensely.
Well, you get to explore that with
But
writing.
exactly, that's the thing, and that's what I love so much about writing, is that you can use stuff that really happened to you. For instance, in The Princess Diaries, the heroine's mom starts dating one of her teachers, and that really was the inspiration for that book, because my mom started dating one of my teachers, and it was really horrible. So I always kept diaries throughout my whole life. I've always written about things that bugged me, and I've kind of used that part as the real kind of way that I pin down the story, but then I elaborate on it by having kind of made up stuff. Some things I wish would happen, like maybe I wish a guy would come up from the underworld and take me down to be the queen, but no, that never really happened.
So these experiences that obviously shaped you as a teen, is that kind of what gravitates you towards writing mostly about teens in most of your books?
I guess you could say that. I also think that because I had such a terrible time being a teenager, I guess I'm kind of trying to use it as a cathartic experience to relive it in a way, except not really, because I would never want to go back to that time. But I also think I feel really bad for the me that lived during those times, and I guess I feel that there are probably a lot of girls who may be feeling that way, and because I had such a bad time and I couldn't tell anybody about it because it was just so awful, and I was always looking for some kind of books that I could read that were a little bit about, you know, girls like me. I just want to make sure that there's stuff out there for, you know, people who were like me, who maybe felt like they didn't fit in, or, you know, they'll have something to let them know that they're not alone. So that's all I want to make sure.
And because of that, I know that you're a very celebrated writer. So I just wanted to ask I know that you, besides writing Princess Diaries and Abandoned, you also write for preteen girls. Ali Finkel, my sister read that, and you also read, I think you also write books for older women, like size 12 is not fat. So out of all those genres, what would you say, you know, is your favorite? I hate asking that.
I know, no, it's something people always ask, and it's so funny because I always think when you're writing a book, it is so hard, you know, to finish a project like that, because you have to put so much of yourself into it that you really have to like the project that you're working on right now. You have to like that the best, because if you don't, you're never going to finish it, because it's really literally hundreds of pages and thousands of words. And so you know, people always say, what's your favorite one? And I really don't have one. They always ask me, who's the character that you identify identify with most. I mean, Allie Finkel is very autobiographical as well, because, you know, when I was in the 4th grade, a lot of the things that happened to Allie Finkel happened to me too.
Yeah.
Felt like I didn't fit in, and there were all these dramatic friend fights. But there really isn't one particular character that I identify with most, because all of the characters I write about have a little bit, at least, of me in them. So I really have to say that I love them all, but the ones I always love the best are the ones that I'm writing at the moment. And the book I'm writing at the moment actually is the sequel to Abandon. So right now I love the sequel to Abandon, and Pierce is a character I very much identify with, I have to say.
So just to close off our interview, to get teens to pick up this awesome book, what is it that you hope that teens will get from reading Abandon?
I think it's probably that I felt that I didn't fit in anywhere when I was growing up, because I did feel like an outsider, because I didn't do very well in school, and I was not a very good athlete, and I had a lot of people telling me that I wasn't going to be successful because I didn't really do well on tests, and this is a society that we live in where you really have to, or at least you're told that you have to be a certain way in order to succeed, and that is exactly what my heroine Pierce is experiencing. Of course, she also has the problem that she died once, and she has really come back from her near-death experience very different. So I really feel strongly that this is the kind of book that kids who may be experiencing that, and even people who aren't, can kind of identify with this heroine and feel like, you know, maybe you're not alone. Maybe there is some place out there where you can fit in, and someone who you might be able to connect with that you may never have even known it, and the thing that you maybe are most afraid of could be the thing that saves you in the end. So that's really what it is.
Okay, so hear it from her yourself. Even though she might have died and had visited the underworld, you can still be able to relate to our heroine Pierce in Abandon. So why don't you go ahead and pick up a copy? Thank you so much for letting us interview you. It's been wonderful. And bye, Justine Spark Girls. I'll see you guys later. Hi, Justine Spark Girls. This is Issa, and today I am here with Lauren Kate, the author of Fallen and her newly released book, Torment, the second book in her series. Can you give us, our readers, a brief synopsis of your new book?
The new book, Torment, picks up right where Fallen left off. So Luce has fallen in love with Daniel, her fallen angel love, and she is moving to a new place, a new state, a new school, a whole new cast of characters. And the main purpose of Torment is for Luce to learn more about her past lives. So she's figuring out that the shadows that have haunted her whole life and terrified her whole life are actually something that she can use to her benefit, and she's exploring her past lives through these shadows.
Interesting. So obviously your books deal a lot with religious aspects. The fact that it's about a human in love with an angel, it deals a lot with the history of heaven and hell. How do you research about these religious aspects? Does it stem from your own beliefs, or do you do research actually for it?
Yeah, I did a lot of really, really wonderful theological research that it was so interesting to me, I almost didn't know when to stop researching and when to start writing. I found a scholar at the University of California in Davis who is an angelologist, and she pointed me to all these great sources, and there are several mentions of angels, obviously, in the Bible, but most mentions of angels actually happen in the books just outside of the Bible. They're called the apocryphal texts, so it's all sorts of fascinating texts that were written around the same time as the Bible. Books like the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Book of Enoch. I checked out lots of trilogies and histories of heaven and hell. I think I scared the local librarians in the town where I was living because I was checking out, you know, like Lucifer, Satan, Mephistopheles, and the librarians were just like, do we need to call security on this crazy girl? But yeah, I did a lot of reading, and I pieced together little bits from here and little bits from there, and kind of created my own mythology for the books. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, so in an age of vampires and werewolves, why write about human-angel interaction?
It's fun. I get this question all the time, and I have to say that I don't think most writers are thinking about the trends out in the publishing world. I mean, I've read the vampire books, I've seen the movies, and I think they're great, but for me, it was just about writing the best story that I could write. So I was always writing these love stories, and when I came across a reference in Genesis to a group of angels who fell in love with mortal women, that was what started it for me. And this whole sort of epic just exploded out of that. And it was a very organic thing that I don't think I thought too much about. How does this compare, you know, to this book or that book? It just happened.
And there's also still a lot of mystery surrounding Luce and Daniel. even in Torment, is there gonna be more clarification in the third book? Are we gonna learn more about their past?
Absolutely. I'm very, very excited for the third book. I know that Torment has just come out, but Passion is the book that I've just finished writing. So that will be coming out in the summer of next year, 2011. And it's a sort of prequel that looks back through time, across history, at all of the past lives that Luce has had with Daniel. So the love between these two that's been sort of cloudy and mysterious and always hinted at, but the reader and Luce, and really me, has never gotten to quite explore it in a really thorough way. And that's, I promise, that's all on the page in Passion. It's a lot of love and a lot of open history between these two.
So there's going to be a lot more clarification in the third book. Okay, and also I would love to ask about your writing style. I've read that you've lived everywhere, from Texas to Atlanta, now Los Angeles. Does your living in all these different areas affect your writing style at all? Or
Yeah, I think that's a big part of how I've become the writer that I've become. And most of it is just, I would say, a curiosity and an openness to the things that I experience in my life, whether it's living in New York City or in a little farm in California. And the advice that I give to anyone who's trying to write a book or interested in writing is to be curious and be open about what's going on and what the things that you see and the people that you meet. And for me, the conversations that you overhear, I mean, that's where I get inspired so much by human relationships that I witness on the street or wherever I happen to be. I try to pull things all the time into my books.
wow. And do you have any advice for these aspiring writers? Because obviously you're the model for writing outside your comfort zone, for writing about things that we don't know about. Do you have any advice for writers that want to achieve what you've achieved?
The easiest piece of advice, it seems very simple, but someone had to tell it to me before I could really figure out how important it is. Finish your book. Someone told me that, and I was, I'd written, 250 pages, and I had a book that I thought was going to be 275 pages. I was almost there, and I was bored with the book. I thought it wasn't a good idea anymore. I started writing it a year or two before, and I had a better idea for the next book. And I was telling a friend of mine, I'm just going to quit this one and give up, and I'll write the next one, it'll be better. And she said, finish your first book so that you know you can do it. And something about it really stuck with me, and I just went home and I wrote those next 25 pages, and it took me a week or 2 weeks or whatever it was, and then I really did know that, because the endings are always the hardest part, and I really did know then that I could always finish. And I've thought about that every single time. I've written 4 books since then, and every single time I get to that point and I think, I don't think I can do it, and then I just remember the difference between somebody who publishes a book and somebody who doesn't is that people finish, and then you can always go back and revise, you can always go back and make it better, but finish your book.
Great advice from an expert herself. Make sure to pick up your copy of Torment today. Thank you so much for letting us interview you.
This was
Lauren.
great. Thank you.